For all that celebrations are magnificent, at the heart of the pageantry is a simple message: service.
The name Laura Lopez has suddenly become the epicenter of what might be the most explosive royal scandal we've witnessed in a generation. And when you actually trace how all of this connects, the picture that emerges is genuinely jaw-dropping. Here's the thing everyone missed. While the world was watching the royal family's carefully curated public image, an intense financial and legal battle was quietly detonating behind palace walls. A battle between William and Camilla that finally erupted in spectacular fashion over the past several weeks. Let me take you back to where this whole thing actually started, because the order of events here really matters. Back in May, William did something that honestly shocked people who work closely with him. He sold off a full 20% of the Duchy of Cornwall's commercial real estate portfolio. We're talking £500 million just gone from the active market in one move. Now, the official reason given was something about housing initiatives and community investment, which sounds lovely, very wholesome. But then some internal palace documents got leaked, and suddenly the real story came out. What William was actually doing was cutting off the money. For over 20 years, there had been these private trusts and funds operating in kind of a gray area within the royal estate system, basically quietly funneling wealth toward Camilla's family and her inner circle instead of going where it was supposed to go. And William just pulled the plug. No warning, no negotiation, nothing. Just gone. And everyone inside the palace immediately understood what that meant. His own advisors were basically like, "Hey, the king and Camilla are going to see this as a declaration of war." And William's response was essentially, "Yeah, I know, moving on." He said the duchy's money exists to serve the public, not private interests. Very calm, very deliberate, very much not an accident. But here's where it gets really interesting. That £500 million move was actually just the setup. The main event was something else entirely. Because while all of that was happening, Laura Lopez was over at Sotheby's auction house doing something that was about to cause her enormous problems. Staff there encountered her with 2 pieces of jewelry, a black diamond pendant on a delicate chain, and a really intricate sapphire bracelet. Now, to most people, these would just look like nice vintage pieces, maybe family heirlooms or something. No big deal. But then photos of these pieces made their way to Kensington Palace, and the reaction there was immediate. People recognized them instantly. These were pieces that Princess Diana herself had worn back in the late 80s. And not just that. These were pieces that William had apparently confronted Camilla about directly when he was like 16 years old, back in 2000. After that confrontation, the jewelry got locked away. For 26 years, nobody saw them. They were just supposed to stay hidden forever. And now here's Laura Lopez casually rocking up to Sotheby's with them. Bold move, honestly. And the thing is, it wasn't just impulsive. The whole operation was actually pretty calculated. The plan was to get the pieces logged into Sotheby's system under Laura's name as generic civilian property. Because they'd been sitting outside the official Crown Estate Registry for so long, there was basically no modern paperwork on them. So by getting them officially cataloged, Laura would essentially be creating a legal paper trail that made her look like the rightful owner. And once that happened, their royal history just disappears from the record. They stop being Princess Diana's jewelry and become some random antiques that nobody can trace back to the palace. Pretty clever. Almost worked. The second Kensington Palace saw that Sotheby's photo, though, William went into full action mode. And I want to emphasize, he did not pick up the phone and call Camila. He didn't try to have a polite family chat about it. None of that. He canceled his entire international schedule, sat down with his legal team, Ferraro and Company, which is basically the Crown's version of a top-secret legal strike force, and gave them one instruction: get the jewelry back immediately. That single instruction legally transformed what Laura had from a family disagreement into possession of misappropriated Crown property, which is a very different and very serious thing. But William still wasn't done. He then drove up to Sandringham to meet with King Charles. And look, this was not a casual father-son catch-up. William showed up with a leather binder containing a constitutional document, specifically something called a letters patent for asset reclassification. Basically what this document said was, if the reigning monarch's health prevents him from properly protecting crown assets, the heir apparent can go to the Privy Council and effectively take control of those assets himself, which would make William Prince Regent, which means the king loses executive authority over those assets entirely. So William sat down across from his dad and essentially said, "Sign this to protect the crown's property, or I go to the Privy Council and make this very public and very complicated for everyone." And the king, facing that choice, signed. One signature. Done. Diana's jewelry was now officially reclassified as crown property, belonging exclusively to the direct line of succession, completely bypassing Camilla's household. After that, the legal machinery just kicked into overdrive. On May 23rd, William's lawyers filed what's called a Mariva injunction with the High Court, which is basically the nuclear option of financial law. Every account, every investment, every trust connected to Laura Lopez got frozen within minutes. Coutts, Barclays, all the major banks got the notification. Laura couldn't move a single pound. Her entire financial life just stopped. And then the next morning, at 5:30 a.m., police showed up at Laura's Wiltshire estate with a High Court enforcement order and a ministerial-level search warrant. They went in, found the pendant and the bracelet, documented everything, seized it all, operation complete. Start to finish, incredibly clean. Meanwhile, over at Clarence's house, Camilla is absolutely panicking. She finds out what happened to her daughter's accounts and immediately calls her legal team, trying to figure out how to stop this. Her first idea was to use sovereign immunity to shield Laura from the legal proceedings. Her lawyers basically laughed that idea out of the room. Sovereign immunity covers the monarch and the queen consort during official duties. It does not cover your daughter, who is a private citizen. Laura was just a regular civilian in the eyes of the law, and there was nothing Camilla could legally do about it. So, she pivoted to what she's always been good at: controlling the story, managing the press, getting friendly journalists to write sympathetic pieces. That playbook had worked for her for 20 years. She turned herself from the most hated woman in Britain into someone people actually respected. So naturally, she went back to that well. Except William had already seen that coming. He shut down the Buckingham Palace press office. Nothing could be released. No statements, no background briefings, no off-the-record chats with journalists, without direct sign-off from Kensington Palace. And on top of that, his team got confidentiality orders from the High Court that prevented major media outlets from even connecting the dots between the asset freeze and the royal collection. Bloomberg and the Wall Street Journal were both sniffing around the unusual banking activity, but legally could not report what it was actually about. So, by the morning of May 24th, Camilla had no legal options and no way to speak publicly. The woman who built her entire second act on narrative control suddenly couldn't say a word. And inside Clarence's house, it was just chaos with no way out. While over at Kensington Palace, William's team was just quietly ticking boxes, totally in control. When the High Court audit wrapped up on June 14th, Laura signed a legal agreement giving up any claim to the jewelry. In exchange, she got limited access to some of her frozen accounts to cover basic costs. That was it. Everything Camilla's camp had been working toward just collapsed. William then put out a public statement, and honestly, the tone of it was kind of impressive, completely calm, almost matter-of-fact. He said his mother's legacy is not a commodity to be bargained over or have its history obscured, and that a clear boundary had been set. Short, direct, no drama. Said everything without saying anything inflammatory. And then he announced the Diana Heritage Trust. Every piece of jewelry and personal artifact that belonged to Diana is now locked into this trust, with terms he described as ironclad. It bypasses the current sovereign's household completely. Everything goes to Kate, Princess of Wales, and eventually to Princess Charlotte. Nobody from Camilla's circle can touch any of it ever again. And look, when you zoom out and look at the full picture, this was never really about jewelry. This was William planting a flag and saying, "Diana's legacy belongs to my line." Not the king's household, not Camilla, nobody else. Mine. And the fact that he was willing to put his father in a constitutional corner to make that happen tells you everything about how serious he is. But then a classified Ministry of Justice file got leaked, and suddenly everything got a whole lot more complicated. The 2 pieces recovered from Laura in Wiltshire? Turns out they were only 2 out of 14 documented missing artifacts from the Highgrove repository. 14 total, 2 recovered. 12 already gone, already out of the country. According to forensic tracking data in the leaked file, those 12 pieces are sitting inside an anonymous private holding company registered in Delaware. And in case you're wondering why Delaware specifically, it's because American corporate structures make it extremely difficult for British courts to reach assets held there. The file also mentioned a codename that came up in the forensic paper trail, the Montecito Connection. Now, if you know anything about recent royal history, that geographical reference is going to immediately point you somewhere very specific. Someone who left the UK permanently. Someone with serious resources and serious international connections. Someone who has been involved in their own legal complications for years. And if you think about what that means, it completely changes the story around Laura Lopez. If she was carrying 2 pieces while 12 others were already safely moved, this wasn't some impulsive scheme to make a quick profit. This was a coordinated international operation to relocate Diana's entire collection outside the reach of British law. And Laura getting sloppy at Sotheby's was apparently the one mistake in an otherwise fairly sophisticated plan. William's response to the missing 12 pieces is actually pretty telling. By locking everything recoverable into the Diana Heritage Trust under maximum legal protection, he was basically acknowledging that those 12 pieces might be gone for good through normal legal channels. But his message was clear. You can keep what you already have. Everything else is sealed permanently. Now, here's the part that I think people are really underestimating. King Charles signed that decree at Sandringham. He sat across from his son, who essentially said, "Your health has created a constitutional vulnerability, and I have the legal standing to exploit it publicly if you don't cooperate." And the king signed anyway. Which means the king, on some level, acknowledged that William had the authority to do exactly what he was threatening. And that doesn't just go away. That establishes a new reality inside the institution. William now knows from direct experience that he has the legal tools to override his father when he needs to. The balance of power has shifted in a way that no press release can undo. For Camila, honestly, when you step back and look at it, it's kind of a tragic story. She spent 20 years doing something genuinely remarkable. She went from being the most publicly despised woman in the country to someone who seemed like an essential part of the monarchy. She worked the press, shaped narratives, built relationships, constructed a public image with real patience and skill. And then, in a few weeks, all of it unraveled. Her daughter, financially frozen. Her voice, legally silenced. And she found out that the most strategically sharp person in her extended family was perfectly willing to corner the king himself to take down her family's financial influence. By the time she fully understood what was happening, it was already over. The injunction was filed, the pieces were seized, the paperwork was done. There was nothing left to defend. Which brings us back to those 12 missing pieces and the Montecito reference. Because if Laura was part of something bigger, someone was running that operation. Someone with the resources to move valuable items through international channels quietly. Someone with motivation to want pieces of Diana's legacy as assets or as leverage. And based on what's in that leaked file, it sounds very much like someone who has been living comfortably outside the UK for a while now. And here's the thing that doesn't get said enough. These aren't just expensive antiques. Diana's jewelry is symbolically loaded in a way that regular valuables just aren't. These pieces represent a direct physical connection to her memory, to what she meant, to the line of succession that William now leads. In the hands of someone outside British legal jurisdiction, they don't function like normal property. They function like leverage. Leverage that the High Court literally cannot touch. By securing everything recoverable into the Diana Heritage Trust, William was sending a message even to whoever is holding the missing 12. You've got what you've got. We can't get it back through the courts. But everything else is sealed for Kate and Charlotte, permanently, and there is nothing you can do about that. The bigger picture here, though, is really about how power actually moves inside an institution like the monarchy. William didn't need a loud public fight with Camilla. He didn't need to embarrass her in the press. He just needed to quietly demonstrate that he had the legal and constitutional tools to protect what mattered to him, even if that meant forcing the king's hand to do it. And once he demonstrated that, everything shifted. Camilla still has her title. Charles is still technically the monarch. But in terms of who actually makes the decisions that stick, that has quietly moved to William's office. Everyone inside the institution knows it, even as the public front remains perfectly composed. The media couldn't report any of this properly because of the confidentiality orders. Laura signed and disappeared from the news cycle. Camilla couldn't speak. The king's involvement was handled quietly through the courts. When the June 14th hearing ended, it was almost boring from the outside. No trial, no drama, just an agreement and a trust announcement. But those 12 pieces are still out there, somewhere in a Delaware holding company, connected to a code name in a leaked government file. 12 pieces of Diana's jewelry are sitting beyond the reach of British law. Held by someone with resources, a plan, and apparently very good reasons for keeping them. This story didn't end with Laura Lopez signing a piece of paper. It just changed shape. What started as a family dispute over some jewelry turned into a constitutional moment that quietly reshuffled real power inside one of the most scrutinized institutions on the planet. And whoever is sitting on those 12 missing pieces right now is holding leverage that hasn't been played yet. Because you don't go to all the trouble of moving 14 royal artifacts across international borders just to put them in a box and forget about them. You do it because you're planning to use them. The question is, just when?